I bet that after 4 parts you thought that there was nothing more I could cover. But we are back, baby, with another 30 things that you wouldn't know if you didn't read the Harry Potter books. You guys know the drill. These are details from the books that fans who have only seen the movies would not be aware of. I've linked parts 1 to 4 in the description below if you want to check those parts out as well. For this video though, make sure you stay till the end because I saved one of the most insane and out there details for last. Also, if you enjoy this video, please consider liking and sharing. It will greatly help the channel with the algorithm. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on all of my other social medias, all of which are linked down below, and all of which have similar content that I make here on this channel. Before we start, I want to thank today's sponsor, Factor. Factor has honestly made a huge difference in my life. It's taken away all my stress about not having enough time to make meals for myself, especially dinner. Factor sets me up for success during the work week, and it allows me to work late on a video if I have to. Factor lets you skip grocery shopping, meal prepping, and helps you avoid cooking fatigue. With Factor, meals are fresh, never frozen, and with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, vegan and veggie, calorie smart, which is my favorite, and much more. With Factor, you can rest assured that you're making the sustainable choice because Factor offsets 100% of delivery emissions and sources 100% renewable electricity for production sites and offices. Another great thing about Factor is that they're really flexible. You can easily adjust your order size, get more for your partner, or even skip a week if you go away, which I just did last week going to Chicago. And then when I got back on Sunday, I had Factor waiting for me, making the first week back much easier. See how beneficial it is for yourself though. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code MovieFlame50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code MovieFlame50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month of orders. Now that I've said that though, let's get the video started. Number 1. Charlie Weasley helped provide the dragons for the first task. Charlie was unfortunately cut from the movies almost entirely, so there's a lot to go over for his character. But one of the most fun details is that he helped bring the 4 dragons to Hogwarts for the first task. This was of course his job, which the movies actually did mention.
My brother Charlie works with these in Romania.
On top of bringing the dragons, Charlie was also on hand for the actual task, just in case things went wrong and the dragons had to be tamed. Number 2. The first time we were introduced to Nifflers. Movie fans know all about Nifflers thanks to Teddy, as well as the baby Nifflers from the Fantastic Beasts movies. But the first time we were ever introduced to these creatures was in the 4th book. Hagrid had prepared one of his best Care of Magical Creatures lessons as he buried leprechaun gold in the dirt before class. Then during the lesson, he gave each student their own Niffler, and whichever student's Niffler found the most gold, they were awarded a large slab of fudge from Honeydukes, and this ended up going to Ron, whose Niffler found the most. Number 3. Victor Crumb complimented Harry's flying ability on a broom. Having a world-famous Quidditch player who is arguably the GOAT of all seekers compliment on how good you are at flying is a huge honor. After seeing Harry in the first task, he was so impressed that he said, "You fly very well." Number 4. Lupin went undercover among the werewolves. Lupin played his part in the Order of the Phoenix, and he had perhaps one of the hardest jobs. He went undercover among other werewolves and tried to recruit them to Dumbledore's side. This was so dangerous because most werewolves at this point had joined Greyback, the very werewolf that bit Lupin when he was a child, which I actually went over in a previous video in the series. Lupin ended up having little success, making this dangerous mission not really worth it. Number 5. Snape called Lily Evans a mudblood. The movie went over what's called Snape's worst memory, and film fans saw Snape being bullied by James. What the movie didn't go over though was Snape calling the Muggle-born Lily Evans the worst thing he could have called her when she tried to intervene, effectively ending any relationship he had with her. I can see why this is his worst memory. It ruined any chance he had with his best friend and the love of his life. Ouch. Number 6. What Molly Weasley did for Harry on his 17th birthday. In the wizarding world, it's tradition to give a wizard a watch when he comes of age, that being 17. And when Harry turned 17, Mrs. Weasley wanted to make sure that Harry experienced this. She gifted Harry her brother Fabian's watch, who had passed many years ago, and this touched Harry so much that he got up and hugged her before she had even finished talking. What a wholesome moment, I love that. Number 7. Albus Dumbledore offered to take Voldemort to Diagon Alley when he was a kid. Tom Riddle had the same experience that Harry did, having someone from Hogwarts come and tell him that they were a wizard, and both were offered the opportunity to be taken to Diagon Alley to help them get their wand and school supplies. While Harry of course took this offer with Hagrid, Tom did not take Dumbledore's offer, saying he could do it on his own. This of course aligns with everything we know about him, wanting to do everything his way and by himself. Number 8. Luna Lovegood commented a Quidditch match. This was perhaps the funniest thing that Luna ever did. She went off on crazy tangents, talking about the shapes of the clouds, speculated that Zachariah Smith, who was having a bad game, was suffering from loser's lurgy, and she never even reported the score, making McGonagall have to come in and do so for her. You just can't help but love Luna. Number 9. Dudley became a successful boxer. If you pay really close attention to the film, you can see a tiny picture of this in the background, but it's so small that I doubt most movie fans will spot this, so I'm gonna count it for this video. During the 5th book, we find out that Dudley took up boxing, leading to him losing a lot of weight and making him incredibly strong. Which is crazy considering that 1 book ago, he was described to be wider than he was tall. This strength served him well, as Dudley became the boxing champion at his school. Number 10. Bellatrix had a husband. Bellatrix was a huge focus in the movies, perhaps more so than in the books at times, especially in The Half-Blood Prince. But one thing the movies never went over was her husband Rodolphus Lestrange. Bellatrix marrying him was her fulfilling her family's pureblood mania, bringing the pureblood Black family together with the pureblood Lestrange family. However, that was about all that came out of this marriage, because Bellatrix gave herself to nobody but Lord Voldemort. Number 11. How Sirius escaped Azkaban. After seeing Wormtail, the man that had framed him in a picture with the Weasleys, Sirius was determined to get his revenge. This led to him trying something pretty risky. He turned into his Animagus form a dog, allowing him to squeeze through the bars. Being in his dog form, the Dementors weren't able to sense him as much as they could when he was in his human form, so Sirius got past them, then swam across the North Sea until he made it to the mainland. Honestly, swimming that far in pretty rough waters is absolutely insane. I feel like people sleep on how hard this escape would have been to pull off. Number 12. Neville could see Thestrals too. Movie watchers saw that Harry and Luna could see these creatures, but the films failed to mention that Neville Longbottom could see them as well. He had seen his grandfather die of old age when he was a kid, granting him the ability to see Thestrals. We actually find this out in a Care of Magical Creatures class, because just like our first introduction to Nifflers, our first exposure to Thestrals in the book was because of Hagrid. Number 13. Snape was almost awarded the prestigious Order of Merlin. In the 3rd book, it seemed as though Snape had saved the trio and had single-handedly captured the so-called convicted murderer Sirius Black. The Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge himself, told Snape that his efforts would gain him Order of Merlin 2nd class. However, when Sirius escaped, Snape became a crazed lunatic. He began angrily yelling that Harry was somehow behind this. Because of Dumbledore's brilliant plan though, it seemed as though Harry had never left the hospital wing to do so. Fudge was so appalled by Snape's behavior that Snape lost all credibility with the Minister, losing any hope he had of getting the Order of Merlin. Number 14. Harry's tattoo. There was a rumor at Hogwarts that Harry had a giant hippogriff tattooed across his chest. When he and Ginny started dating, Romilda Vane asked Ginny about this, and Ginny told her it wasn't a hippogriff, but a Hungarian horntail. For some reason, Ron believed this rumor, despite the fact that he was there when they literally talked about Romilda Vane asking about this. When it came time for everyone to turn into Harry using Polyjuice Potion, Ron looked down at his chest and said, "I knew Ginny was lying about that tattoo." I'm not really sure why Ron believed this, but okay. Number 15. Voldemort framed his uncle for murder. In an earlier part of this series, I went over how Voldemort killed his father and grandparents, but I didn't go over what happened next. Voldemort had been told of his Muggle father's existence and location by his uncle Morphin. After telling him this, Voldemort stunned Morphin, took his wand, and committed the murders with it. He then returned to Morphin, modified his memory to make him think that he had committed the murders, and left his wand there. This memory modification was done so well that Morphin admitted that he had done it, and when they saw that his wand had the Killing Curse as its most recent 3 spells, the case was closed with no investigation needed. Morphin was sent to Azkaban after being framed by his nephew, and Morphin never even knew that he never did it. This shows you how powerful Voldemort is at magic, especially considering the fact that he was still a student at Hogwarts. He had not finished his Hogwarts training when he did this. That's absurd. He was so powerful. Number 16. Cedric Diggory beat Harry at Quidditch. Movie fans saw the match in which this took place, but in the film, the seeker for Hufflepuff, who was supposed to be Cedric Diggory, was struck by lightning and taken out of the game. In the book though, Cedric actually caught the snitch right before Harry fell, winning Hufflepuff the match and giving Harry his first ever loss in a match that he played in. Number 17. Voldemort set Neville and the Sorting Hat on fire. This one probably sounds pretty crazy to movie fans. Following Harry's death in the Battle of Hogwarts, Voldemort used the summoning charm to make the Sorting Hat come to him. He then forced Neville to his knees, placed the Sorting Hat on his head, and set both of them on fire in front of everyone. As someone whose greatest fear is fire, that's absolutely terrifying. Number 18. Ginny's ex and Harry's ex used each other as a rebound. Movie fans know all about Cho Chang, whose relationship with Harry ended at the end of the Order of the Phoenix. What movie fans might not entirely know, but at least saw, was Ginny with her boyfriend named Michael Corner, who she also broke up with at the end of the 5th installment. Ginny broke up with Michael because he was a sore loser about Ravenclaw being beaten by Gryffindor at Quidditch. This happened because Ginny beat Cho to the snitch, and this led to Cho crying, and guess who swooped in to comfort her? Michael Corner. The two then started dating each other to get over both Harry and Ginny, which is kind of funny considering the fact that Harry and Ginny eventually ended up together. Number 19. Lupin made Tonks' Patronus change forms. Fans of the films know about a Patronus changing shape when a person loves the other, as evidenced by Snape, whose Patronus took the form of a doe, the same as Lily's. What the movies left out though was that this happened to another character, Nymphadora Tonks. She was so in love with Lupin that her Patronus changed from a jackrabbit to a wolf, the same Patronus as Remus. Number 20. Harry disapparated before he even knew he was a wizard. Apparating and disapparating is one of the hardest pieces of magic to do, and as I mentioned in a previous video in the series, you need a license to do it. However, Harry actually performed this piece of magic before he even knew he was a wizard, and he did so without a wand. It happened when he was being chased by Dudley and his gang, and as he jumped behind a trash can to hide, he somehow disapparated from the ground to the top of his school roof. I don't know how he pulled this off, especially without a wand to hone his magic. It really shows just how powerful of a wizard Harry really is. Number 21. Mad-Eye Moody used the illegal Imperius Curse on students. Technically, this was Barty Crouch Jr. disguised as Moody, but this was still wild considering the fact that this took place during a lesson at Hogwarts. And surprisingly, it was actually a really good lesson. Crouch used the curse on each student to show them what it felt like, and the only person to fight it was, you guessed it, Harry Potter, again showing how powerful Harry really is. Number 22. Aberforth broke Albus Dumbledore's nose at their sister's funeral. Movie fans know of Aberforth from the Deathly Hallows Part 2 as well as from the Fantastic Beasts films. However, they don't know about one of his most notable moments. Following their sister Ariana's death, which was covered a bit in the films, they had a funeral for her. There, Aberforth shouted at his older brother in front of everyone, saying that Ariana's death was his fault. He then proceeded to punch Albus in the face so hard that it broke his nose. This is then where Albus got his famous physical description, a crooked nose. Number 23. Hermione used magic to make herself more attractive. In the book, Hermione was described as a plain-looking girl with large buck teeth. The filmmakers actually tried to make Emma Watson have these buck teeth on the first day of shooting, which happened to be the last scene of the first film.
In the book, Hermione has buck teeth. So in the very first scene that we shot in the film, Emma is wearing fake teeth. We realized after the first day of dailies that we could not do that for the entire course of the picture.
Watching this scene, you can kind of tell how big her front teeth are, though they tried their best to hide it.
If you look closely enough, she's wearing false teeth in that last scene to make her more Hermione-like.
But getting back to the novel, Hermione's large buck teeth were made even larger courtesy of a spell cast by Draco Malfoy. When Hermione went to the hospital wing to get them fixed, Madame Pomfrey held up a mirror as she put her teeth back, and Hermione sneakily told her to go a little bit longer to ensure her buck teeth were gone, giving her normal-sized teeth. This change is one of the reasons why she was so shockingly beautiful at the Yule Ball. Number 24. The real way Ron and Lavender broke up. The films actually did an incredible job with their breakup, having Ron say Hermione's name when Lavender was there. In fact, I might actually like it more than what happened in the book. But in the novel, Ron and Lavender did not break up while Ron was in the hospital. They were still together following Ron's recovery. Instead, they broke up after Ron and Hermione had reconciled, which of course made Lavender suspicious. This came to a boiling point when she saw Ron and Hermione coming out of the boys' dormitory together. This wasn't exactly the case, as Harry was next to them, though under the invisibility cloak. Seeing this though, Lavender broke up with Ron on the spot, which was a huge relief to Ron. He really should have ended things much sooner. Number 25. The backstory of Harry using Accio in the first task. Movie fans saw Harry use the summoning charm while fighting the dragon.
Accio Fireball!
However, in the book, he didn't just magically know this spell. It took a ton of work to be able to master this and ensure that he could really get his Firebolt into the arena. He and Hermione spent hours practicing leading up to the task, and Harry actually really struggled with this spell. After all that practice though, he was finally able to master it, which allowed him to pull off one of the most badass moves in the whole tournament. Number 26. Umbridge gave Harry, Fred, and George a lifetime ban on Quidditch. Well, movie fans, here's just another reason to hate Dolores. In a previous part of the series, I went over what led to this ban, which was Harry and George beating the living shit out of Malfoy following a Quidditch match. McGonagall took the two of them to her office and she gave them a week's worth of detention. However, Umbridge then showed up, and she pulled out a new educational decree that gave her power over all punishments, and she used it to override McGonagall's punishment, instead giving not only Harry and George, but Fred as well, a lifetime ban from ever playing Quidditch at Hogwarts again. Umbridge is just the absolute worst. Number 27. Barty Crouch Jr. got the Dementor's kiss. Fans of the film know all about the character Barty Crouch Jr., but the film never covered what became of his character. They sort of made it seem as though he was just sent back to Azkaban.
Send an owl to Azkaban. Think they'll find they're missing a prisoner.
In reality though, when Minister Fudge came to interrogate him, he decided to bring some Dementors for his own protection. This turned out to be a terrible idea, because as soon as the Dementors saw Crouch, they gave him the Dementor's kiss, possibly the worst fate anyone could ever get. Leave it to fudge things up. Number 28. Colin Creevey died. Movie fans were introduced to Colin in the second film, but we never saw him after the Chamber of Secrets. He was a constant side character in every book following the Chamber of Secrets, and during the Battle of Hogwarts, though he wasn't old enough to fight, he snuck out to join the battle. There he was murdered, and his body was found by Neville Longbottom and Oliver Wood as they collected the dead. When Harry saw his dead body, it crushed him. Number 29. This is one of my favorites. Kingsley Shacklebolt sent the Ministry on a goose chase to find Sirius Black. Being a member of the Order of the Phoenix, Kingsley knew that Sirius was innocent and knew exactly where he was. This made it quite lucky that he of all people was put in charge of hunting Sirius down for the Auror office. He ended up telling them that he was following leads in Tibet, when really Sirius was right there in London in Grimmauld Place. And finally, number 30. I saved the best for last. The Time Room. The Battle of the Department of Mysteries in the movie cut out a crazy part of the battle, which took place in the time room. The room was filled with a sparkling light, every type of clock you could think of, and its main centerpiece, a bell jar, which defied space and time. It housed a hummingbird who would hatch from an egg, but when it reached the top, it went backwards, going back into the egg that fixed itself, and this was on a loop for eternity. That is, until the Death Eater Rabastion Lestrange had his head go inside of it, making his head turn into a baby's while his body remained an adult. He stumbled around like crazy, not knowing what to do, and he stayed in this form for the rest of the battle. And that is 30 more things that movie fans would not know. Again, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and sharing to help spread the video around, because I put a lot of work into these. That's all I have for you guys today though, so I will see you in the next video.